Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. An organization that brings people together in the city of Sioux Falls is celebrating a milestone. The Multicultural Center is 25 years old. And joining me is City Councilor Pat Starr, who is also a member of the Board of Directors on the Multicultural Center Board. And the interim executive director is Lori Knutson. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about why is the Multicultural Center so important to the city?
Well, I think one of the things that's the most important about the Multicultural Center is that it's been around for 25 years and it really helps our community. We help a lot of people who are immigrants, refugees, but we also help the community of Sioux Falls to interact with people, to learn about our neighbors and to see who they are and to the different experiences that they've had and sharing and assimilating into the community. So it's great for everyone in the community to have those opportunities to get to know each other, whether the number of events that we do through the thing, through the community, through the course of the year, but also those things that some rentals of the facility, the different programs that we do that are just awesome way to get to know our neighbors.
Let's back up a little bit and maybe Lori, you could tell us a little bit about the history of the Multicultural Center and who did it serve at the beginning and how much has that changed?
Yeah, there were a lot of individuals that saw students in the school district primarily and started saying, okay, there's some needs with these students, and then that led to looking at the family situations and saying there are some new needs in our community as we get new refugee immigrant families coming into our community. And so a few individuals started coming together and just trying to build awareness and trying to understand what some of the differences were and how we as a community needed to start changing. And through some of that work over a couple of years, people started finding funding, they started talking to the city and the county about what they were seeing, and out of that the Multicultural Center formed as an organization and started being a little bit more purposeful, a place for people to come to and connect and to get some resources. And people from different cultures wanted a place to gather. And so when the county offered up the space that we're in right now with the Coliseum next door, it became a great place for people to gather, to do their ethnic weddings and their cultural type weddings and family gatherings, and to have a place that they could kind of call their own to do that in. So a really rich history and a variety of different individuals, but my understanding is it started out of the schools and the kids that they were seeing in the school district and the family dynamics that were coming through those situations. So. Well,
and I remember way back when is that there were so many different languages that were coming to the school district, and they went, well, we have to figure this out. How do we have these children who are not speaking English, and then of course their families needed to learn English. And so was that kind of the premise that brought more and more people together?
I suppose, yeah. I mean, you're right. The language barriers create lots of scenarios themselves, and not only the Multicultural Center, but we've got other agencies in town that were helping to assimilate some of the people that were coming here. But language is a big issue. Kids would learn English much faster than their parents. And so that creates new dynamics in itself as well, and that's still an issue today. The language piece is always a big challenge. There are great resources in our community, and as a Multicultural Center, one of our roles is to help connect people to those resources, because we can be that place. It's like, oh, I should go there because it just seems like a natural fit for a refugee family or an immigrant family to come and say, here's what's going on, or I need a translator, or I need an interpreter to help with the situation, or I'm not really sure about how to find a job. I know I need to find a job, and so that's really kind of what the Multicultural Center has really evolved in today, is trying to be that connector and that place where people feel safe coming in and trying to find solutions to whatever their questions are, to whatever their situations are.
One of the things we've talked a lot about as a board, because we've really embraced the 25 years of what services have we provided, but what do we need to do to go into the future? And we've spent some time as a board and as a community. We've had a couple of public meetings where we brought people together and saying, okay, what do we want the Multicultural Center to be? And the thing that really impresses me that we keep coming back to, it's a hub. It's a place where people can come together. It's that first place you can go to say, well, we don't offer that services here, but this group does, whether it's LSS, you work a VOA, the Bishop Dudley, you work your way through the whole thing. But as part of that planning goes forward, what we're really seeing is, again, being the hub, but also providing the services so we're not duplicating services. And so that seems to be one of the things we talk about, whether it's housing or whether it's workforce, and the things that we see in Sioux Falls is that lots of different groups are doing part of it and bringing it all together so that there's a roadmap for folks to go. When you need a job, well, I need an interpreter, or I need a driver's license and I need that extra help. So again, the focus really of the board of directors is kind of putting that in place while we look for a permanent executive director. But what do we want to be? What services do we need to provide for the community? And to really take that rich history of 25 years and bring it back to, okay, here's what we've been successful at the past, but really this is what the community needs now. And I think as we go on and longer in the program today, we'll talk about some of those programs that we've been known for, but again, knowing that we're trying to put that together going to forward.
Let's talk about some of the programs that you have, and one of the very important ones is the workforce development program. We have a lot of diversity in Sioux Falls, and we have a lot of job openings, and we need them filled. So let's talk a little bit about how employers are coming to
and all employers are looking for good employees, and they understand that our community is becoming more and more diverse, and that the language issues, all of those things the barriers that have been preventing them from becoming employed need to be addressed so that we can get people in the workforce. Because a lot of the new Americans want to work. They want to take care of their families. They want to live the American dream like all of us do. And so our workforce development program sits down one-on-one with individuals and lets them know too that they don't have to work in some of the more traditional places. I mean, oftentimes new people will come to this community because they already have family members here, and I'm not saying anything negative about some of the places that they're going to, but they just automatically think they have to work at Smithfield or they have to work in housekeeping, and they don't. Some do have some education, some do have the capacity to get additional education or skills and learning things that they can do to be in a different type of job. And part of it is just making them aware of what that is. And the other thing we find is so many jobs you apply for online, and many of them don't have access. They don't know where to go and look to find a job. So we sit down with them, we talk about what kind of skills and knowledge they already have. We talk about what kind of job they ultimately want to have. And then we work with them to say, okay, to become a nurse, for example, you will need some education for that. And this is what that looks like. In the meantime, maybe you can work at one of the health systems and you can be an aide or you can be a tech. You can do some things that help them get their feet in the door and start learning about what it really is to work in healthcare. Because sometimes they don't know what they don't know either. Right. And so we really want to customize each person that comes through our doors to show them what kind of a career they can have and that they can dream, and it can be different than what they think it has to be. And so our coordinator works with them on a one-on-one basis. This is one of the areas that we think has huge opportunity for volunteers. We have all these baby boomers who are starting to retire and just want to work a couple hours a week or volunteer somewhere an hour or two a week. This would be a great place for them to sit down and be able to work one-on-one with someone who wants to get in the workplace and just kind of walk alongside of them doing that and mentoring them or identifying other people that they can shadow or get to know so that they see our community in a bigger scope and the job availability in a bigger scope. And employers want that too. But we know many of them start in the entry-level jobs and they're willing and they know they have to do that. But at the same time, we want to put a plan that's bigger than that together for those who want the bigger plan. Some don't. Some are very content just working and coming home after work and doing that. But we want to make sure they have the options. We want them to know that there are options for them.
Do you find that the new Americans that have children, that they learn more quickly because the children are learning in school?
Well, I think it varies.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of variables in all of that as far as their own education, their own desire to want to learn the language, you know, because for some it's so overwhelming. Right. And there really is a structure to learning words. And so I'm sure they are picking up some of the English just by what's being done in the home, but my understanding is more that the kids are using their traditional language in the home because that's what their parents know. And so I don't know how much of that's just naturally happening. It seems to me that it's happening with intent. They're getting English learning classes. And maybe their kids, maybe in some situations the kids are actually sitting with their parents and teaching them words and certain things. I'm sure it's unique to, each house is a little different.
Well, I think one of those things too, and the most important part of the workforce development too, is for employers to understand that some of our new Americans are probably some of the hardest working, most loyal folks that you're going to ever work with. In fact, I talked with an employer just the other day and they're like, we want them to move up. We want them to move into management positions. Mm-hmm. And sometimes their skills exceed what we can challenge them as part of their job. And they need to move on to other jobs, but they don't want to leave what we're doing because they are so loyal that people have helped them and that the employer has done that. And so I think a lot of employers are so surprised about, again, how hard people work and how hard the loyalty that comes with that as well too.
So they may be missing out on opportunities that they would have to go work for a different employer to get a higher paying or a better management position.
Right, they're ready to move on from some of the entry-level jobs, but maybe that employer doesn't have as many, that next step for them, and it's okay. It's part of, we brought you, you're part of our community, you've learned a lot with us, but we trust you, we don't want you to leave, but we do want you to succeed and be able to make enough money to take care of your family and provide the housing and do the things that you need to do. So it's fun to watch people who are so loyal and good employees, and for employers to take that risk and say, hey, we need to expand our horizons too. We need to understand what some of these folks have gone through before they've gotten here, and to fit that, and what does that mean for my business, and how can that help my business grow too. So there's as much education, I think, on both sides from the employee as there is for the education that goes for employers.
Well, that's what, as the schools and as their community becomes more diverse, that's good for everyone living here, because it opens everyone's eyes to different cultures and different ethnicities. And the more we meet people, we realize we're all the same and we want the same things. And it's amazing to see that transformation among people. Okay, so driver's education, you offer that. At what point can people come in and start to get a driver's license?
So right now that program is kind of being redefined and redeveloped. We know that there's a need to create safe drivers. And that requires a higher level of education. And again, the language barrier is the biggest challenge in that. And so we've kind of stepped back. We're regrouping with lots of other partners in the community that do some things with driver's education to really understand what the needs are with the non-English speaking or limited English speaking, and how best to meet that need to help them become a safe driver. And so that program's kind of in transition right now. The main thing that we're offering is bringing a translator or an interpreter with them to the written test. That part is allowed, where they can interpret the test with them, but they can't go in the driving, they can't be in the car in the driving part of it. So they need to know certain English terminologies, stop sign, turn left at the next corner, certain things, when they're in the vehicle. And just getting driver behind the wheel training in general. And a lot of that is happening within the family units themselves. They're doing a lot of training and practicing on their own, even before they're getting permits and some of the things that are going on there. So we know that there's a need that needs to be met, but it also needs to be affordable is the other part, and the timing needs to be right. And of course there's 90 or 100 and some languages in our community right now, and so starting with some of the larger language populations, and then trying to create something that can be replicated regardless of language. So we're really regrouping that and working in a group model to redefine that to meet that need, because obviously safe driving is something that we want in our community. And and again, for everybody to have the same opportunity for that.
Sure. Well, anybody who has teenagers knows how terrifying it is to teach them, and you do it without the permits, and you get them in the car because you just want them to get that license so you don't have to deal with them. So
well, I'm just laughing because I'm doing 2 of them right now and teaching them, and so I think
that's
we
why
could
your hair is great.
Thank you. All right, so now I'm way off of where we're at. But no, it really is. I think we can all review our driving skills. And again, it's another one of those places that there's an opportunity for volunteers that are part of that. There are retired driver's ed teachers. There are people who can teach those skills. And again, I think we can all review just driving around Sioux Falls. I think that comes out in all of our surveys. You don't have to be a new American to be able to refresh some of your driving skills as well. So.
Sure, exactly. Yeah. And then English classes. Do you have English classes?
Yeah, so we partner with the Southeast Technical College, and they provide a teacher on the English language, and we provide the space. So because we know a lot of our clients live closer to the downtown area, and so we partner with them to offer language classes, English language, and then we also have Spanish classes that we offer too. And it's twice a week, and new people can join the first of every month and kind of get into the rotation of learning English. And that's a growing area too. There's such demand for that. And we're not the only ones that offer English classes, but we are one of the sites where people can come and learn.
But I was going to say the other thing is that we're offering Spanish, or we're offering some other world languages too as part of the what do we do to share those cultures and as we get to know each other and people become part of the community so as well, because there's a large demand for people who want to learn Spanish. There's probably some other languages too as we work down the list too to get to that part of it. So again, it's sharing from both sides, people who've been here their entire lives versus people who've been here a few months.
Right. Sure. Well, that creates a collaboration because when you're hiring people, you need to be able to communicate with the people you are hiring as well. So, yeah, that's great. And then you have the Career Closet program.
Yeah, and that's part of our workforce development effort is to make sure people feel like they have the right type of clothing when they're going into interviews. We help prepare them to do a good interview, and part of that is how they look and how they dress. And depending on the type of job they're looking for, they might need something a little more professional, or they just need good black-soled shoes and black pants and white shirts. Whatever their job dress is going to be, we take donations on that and regularly have individuals come in and seek out clothing that can help them in the workplace. So it's part of our workforce development effort to help make sure people have all the tools that they need to be successful.
Let's talk a little bit about the volunteer roles, because if you're taking in donated clothes, you probably need help sorting, and you need mentors. How does someone become a volunteer, and what are some of the qualifications?
The easiest way to make us aware of that is to either give us a phone call or to just jump on our website. There's an opportunity on the website to fill out and tell us who you are, the kind of work you're interested in doing as a volunteer, and then we can follow up with you. But you're right, the Career Closet, the workforce development, those are all areas during the week, primarily Monday through Friday. The 9 to 5 hours when we're there and when the clients are coming in are when volunteers are most needed for us, because they can just do that. They can help someone talk about the kind of job they want, and they can be in the closet helping someone select clothing or organizing new donations and putting them out. A variety of ways for people to get involved.
Sure. Well, we have a lot more to talk about, and we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Dr. Penning from Falls Community Health, here today to talk about vaping. A vape pen is the type of e-cigarette that is popular, especially among teenagers. They contain nicotine and other ingredients that can be very addictive. Although vape pens contain less chemicals than traditional cigarettes, they can still be harmful to the lungs and the developing adolescent brain. If you have questions about vaping, please contact your primary care physician or Falls Community Health.
Well, welcome back to Inside Town Hall, where we are discussing the Multicultural Center, which is now 25 years old, which is hard to believe. We're visiting with City Councilor Pat Starr, and his guest is Lori Knutson, who is the interim executive director for the Multicultural Center. Let's talk a little bit about the cultural differences. When people come here, are new Americans in the United States, you know, what may be acceptable in their countries or at their homes is not acceptable here. What kind of training has to go in to help people understand what the customs and cultures are here?
Well, I'll jump on that because part of it is just communicating and talking to your neighbors. We've had a Sudanese family in our neighborhood that we've interacted over the years and sharing some food and just understanding those different things. But really, it's as simple as just having that conversation. Talking to people, saying, well, why do you do that? You know, and we do it all the time at a small church we had when we were growing up. People would walk in the church and they would bless themselves in front of this blank wall. And the new pastor couldn't figure out why that everyone did this. And he finally asked, well, there used to be a portrait of the Holy Family there, and people would address that. And it was just something they did, but it had been painted over for generations. So again, it's just having that conversation, being able to talk to people. But again, it's the programming that the Multicultural Center does, whether it's our Festival of Cultures or just bringing groups together so you can have those conversations.
Yeah, it is about awareness and understanding that everyone comes with a different story, you know, and how they got to Sioux Falls in the first place. Everybody has a different story about that, and many have come from refugee camps where their world was very limited, and now they've got this big Sioux Falls community that has every option available to them, and we're talking to them about banking, and we're talking about driving vehicles and going to work and finding jobs and getting education and being a parent based on what our parenting standards are here in America, and domestic violence issues, you know, in the home. I mean, the way they grew up and the cultures that they have are different than what we have here in America, and it's just being aware of that and being willing to listen and be, you know, and that's where the Multicultural Center wants to be a safe space for that. We want the different cultures who are wondering about parenting things, for example, you know, their youth who are going off and doing things, and again, this is where the language barrier can be an issue as well, but that they can come to the Multicultural Center and we can help them find solutions to the concerns they have, to the questions they have. Banking, we have so many that come in and will participate in a program or service and pay us cash, because the concept of a bank, they don't totally understand it, first of all, and secondly, they're not sure they can trust it. Right. And things, we hear stories, you know, again, when you've been in a refugee camp or you come across having grown up in a different type of way, the standards that we have, you know, as far as being a parent, we don't leave our 3-year-olds at home alone. For them, that's a common thing. And so they need to learn, and we need to learn and understand that it's a lot of it's just not being aware, not really understanding, not really having the trust level that we just automatically have, having grown up in the United States. That just comes to us naturally. And so it is being willing to step back and look at the situation and being willing to hear their story so that we can understand their situation and then help them find a solution and help build the trust so that they can feel a little more comfortable being in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and, you know, and having neighbors that want to help them. And, you know, a lot of it is just understanding and being willing to listen, like you said, and have a conversation.
Well, the communication, you know, we can all help and we can all learn. The world has gotten so small now. What we thought of as when we were kids, we didn't know that we would have Sudanese neighbors. We didn't know that we would have Hispanic friends and neighbors and have to learn about each other's cultures. It was just unfathomable for us to understand. And can you imagine them coming here and having to learn all of these customs and traditions that we have? You know, even, you know, many cultures will hang out in a park, and people whose parks are usually empty during the day, we don't understand that is their culture. And so, you know, what's your advice to people who come across new Americans? How do you get to know people?
Well, you know, I think that golden rule piece, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated. And everybody has a story. I mean, we all have familiar stories about how we became who we are. Obviously growing up in the United States creates different standards for us than if we grew up in South Africa or some other third world country. The standards are a little bit different and the survival mode is different. And everyone has trauma. Everybody has a journey that's gotten them to where they're at, that has made them stronger or that is giving them challenges. And we're all the same in that regard. I mean, that's just a human nature piece. And so I think, the golden rule, just treat people the way that you would want to be treated, and that's a really good place to start.
The other place is, for me, is our kids. Yeah. Our kids bring us together.
Yeah.
Moms and dads have to get together because their kids want to go ice skating this weekend, like we're doing it in our family, whether it's the Shields Iceplex or they want to go swimming at the Midco, and who's driving, and well, am I sending my kid because I don't know these parents, so I need to know the parents, or we need to socialize or throw some hot dogs on the grill or do that kind of thing. It's not that hard. It's just making that first impression. I know a lot of times, especially at our school, because our school is very diverse, it's like, well, I can't understand them, or I can't, their language is there. It's easy. It's just a matter of taking an extra minute, and I talk funny at different times, and that part of it too. So I mean, it's just a matter of having that conversation and starting it.
Yeah,
it's just starting. It's taking a step.
I just saw a thing on Facebook this week that said it's really not that difficult to learn new names, because they look difficult at the beginning, but learn them. And it's worth it. And one thing I was going to say, you brought up hot dogs, food. Everybody can come together with food, have a potluck, because I want to try every single solitary thing that's out there. I want to eat every different food from every different culture. I just want to try it.
Well, and you're right. We have a dude coming over this weekend in a shui for a birthday party and trying to, and I was like, what a beautiful name. I mean, a shui?
A shui.
A shui. Or
awesome.
A dude is her sister. So anyway, it's having that. And again, we keep going back to the same thing. The Multicultural Center is providing that hub to bring people together. And it's as much of people who are new Americans or new to our community or long-term. One of the things we haven't talked about is our Native American friends.
Yeah.
And getting to do that. We don't have Native American friends, and it just doesn't seem to interact. It's another place that, again, that they're coming and being part of our community and getting to know them. So
great.
And you're looking for volunteers, so tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So the website's probably the best place to go, and it'll give you a little bit more familiarity with the Multicultural Center and some of the programs we have going. And there's a volunteer button on there, and it's an opportunity for you just to share with the kind of work that you'd be interested in doing. We have Monday through Friday type opportunities with the Career Closet and the workforce development. And then we also have our fun events like Festival of Cultures. You mentioned that'll be coming up in June, and that's a fun day to be involved in helping us have a big community celebration that celebrates different cultures and gives us a chance to try different foods and see different entertainment from the different cultures and just be together. So lots of different ways to get involved, but the website's probably the easiest, and that's sfmcc.org, or the phone number at 367-7401. If you want to call and just give us your name, we'd be happy to visit with you then too.
All right. Well, thank you. Get over and meet your neighbors and invite them in and eat some food. That's the best advice. So, thank you for watching. We will be back next month.